Hello and welcome to the Cameo Show. I'm your host, Cameo. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining for the first time. I am so grateful that you've decided to spend the next 20 minutes or so with us here at the Cameo Show. And when I say us, I mean myself, but everyone else who's a part of this community. My regular listeners, I thank you so much. I see you showing up every single week, and I can't even believe it, quite honestly. So thank you again so much, all of you, for being here. Reviews are super important, and I don't mention this often, but while I'm on this little moment, I guess I would take a second here to say, if you could stop what you're doing, whatever app you're listening on, whatever platform you're visiting from, take a second to leave a 5-star review, some words if you'd like. That can really help the show out and help us continue to provide weekly episodes with inspiring and empowering content that explores the human experience and human emotion. Now, this week's episode is all about the importance of taking yourself on a solo date. And I'm talking about it because I recently did that myself. For those of you who don't know, my family, my husband Greg and our 2 kids, Faith and Ben, moved from Ohio to Florida 10 years ago this month, so in August of 2014. And our kids were young. They were 8 and 4 at the time. So now they are 18 and 14 and grown. And we live in Southwest Florida, about 30 to 60 minutes from the Gulf of Mexico, depending on the time of year and traffic, of course. And we have frequented the beach as a family, Greg and I a couple times as a couple. We take all of our visitors there, obviously. We live near Siesta Key, the world's #1 beach, the Gulf white sands. It's beautiful with the turquoise water. But one thing that I have never done in the last 10 years is take myself to the beach. I have written it down on basically every goal list, on every intention list that I've made every single year, that I would like to go to the beach once a week. Sometimes I've said once a month, thinking that that might be more realistic. It just has seemingly never happened. And I'm not saying that that is going to be the case moving forward, that once a week or once a month I'm going to take myself to the beach or even make it to the beach with my family. But what I am saying is that I was actually flabbergasted at the idea that I had never been to the beach by myself in all of the time that we've lived here. I take that back. I stopped by one day on my way from dropping our daughter Faith off somewhere out there. I stopped by, walked out, put my feet in the water, but I was in like leggings and I couldn't stay and I needed to get back. So I didn't really spend any time there, but I did stop one other time. But in 10 years, that's still pretty sad, right? That I have not been to the beach on my own. So this time, it was a Saturday. Everyone in my family had something going on. And Greg and I can always find things to do. We are busy producing music, making music, producing podcasts, recording podcasts, writing books, newsletters. Like there is always something to do aside from running our business. We are busy and running our children around, at least Ben at this point. We are busy just like everyone else. We can always find something to do, but typically it's after we know that the kids have their things in order, because they are definitely our #1 priority. And so this particular Saturday, our son Ben had band practice. He's in marching band at the high school. And this day they had practice from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Our daughter Faith had taken off and gone down to visit her boyfriend at his university for a couple of nights. So she was gone. And Greg and I kind of looked at each other like, what are we going to do? And we both decided that, and actually I think he may have taken the lead on this, quite honestly, encouraged that I take myself to the beach and just relax and spend the day doing whatever it was that I wanted to do, and that he would hang back at the house and record music or work on producing some music, mixing some music, whatever he was doing in his studio here at our house. And I was like, hell yes, that sounds great. I debated for a minute, maybe I should just stay home and use the day to be somewhat productive. I could get some laundry done while I'm hanging out by the pool or spending the day outside, maybe do some planting. And then I decided that I need to leave the house or I'm going to find things to be productive. which I was already trying to do. And then I'm not going to actually use the day in the way that I need to, which is to relax, unwind, reset, have some time and space to let all of the stress and all of the things go for a minute and just reconnect with myself. So I took my happy ass to the beach. I packed up like I was going to beach camp. I took my whole setup with the chair and blankets and towels, and I took a cooler with snacks and a water jug and sunscreen, of course, and I was ready. And I took off, and I actually listened to a couple of podcasts on the way there. Sometimes I drive in silence. A lot of times I drive in silence. But this time I turned on a couple of podcasts, and I was feeling great all the way out to the beach. And then I got there, and I walked out to my spot on this secluded beach where it's not really a public beach. I mean, it is, but it's not heavily populated, so there aren't a lot of people, there aren't facilities, just my speed. I set up my spot and I sat down. Not very many people in sight to my left or to my right. It was almost like it was my own private space. And I was flooded with emotion. I couldn't even believe it. I started crying and I couldn't stop crying. And it was probably a good 20 or 30 minutes of full-on snot bubble crying, my body shaking, I'm sobbing so hard. And I brought a journal with me. That was also in my beach camp bag. And so I got a pen out and I started writing down what I was feeling. And I think initially I was overwhelmed with sadness, or what felt like sadness, because I realized that the days of our entire family going to the beach for a whole afternoon are kind of few and far between these days because the kids are older. And so there's not this whole setup, and there's not this day spent building sandcastles and digging in the sand and momming the whole time. While that's, kind of a reprieve, it also dawned on me in that moment that that was kind of sad, that time is undefeated and that it's just going by so fast. But as I continued to sob audibly, it was something else. I must have needed it. But as I continued to sob, I realized that that sadness was actually, I think, more just a release and a recognition that we've come so far. Our family, Greg and I's marriage, myself, our entire situation since we've moved here. And so being there by myself in that moment was me having a moment of reflection. It was like a huge exhale of like, we did it, we're doing it, and here I am, and we've been through so much, and I'm still here. And in fact, I'm finally here on this beach on my own, happy to be alone in this moment and grateful for the opportunity to. I actually wrote that in my journal. And I'm not going to read you the whole thing because it's my journal, but I will just say maybe my sadness isn't sadness. Maybe it's just an emotional release that we've made it and come so far. Everyone is happy. I'm proud and grateful that I can have this time, this peace, and this space. And I'm so glad I wrote that down because it truly does capture 100% how I was feeling through the tears. As I looked out across the water, which was sparkling like diamonds, all different variations of turquoise that met the blue sky with the most picturesque white clouds, a couple of manatees swam by and picked their snouts up out of the water. I saw a pod of dolphins, I think they're called a pod of dolphins, out playing, jumping, not just swimming by, but like out a little bit further, jumping. There was a little crab who must have lived in front of me that continuously came out and braved walking out to the water and scurrying back to the hole that was clearly its home. Plenty of birds. And it felt like I was literally in a picture. It ended up being one of the most beautiful days. I listened to a podcast. I listened to 2 guided meditations. I sat there for 4 hours. I swam in this silky, perfect water. And when I left, I felt so light and so refreshed and so grateful and ready to go home and embrace everything that I have in front of me, even laundry. That's a stretch. Laundry's a stretch, but embrace all of the things that I get to do and the people that I have in my life. So that's my story, and the reason that I'm talking about it is because I want to share with you reasons why it's important for you to do the same for yourself. Now, I chose to go to the beach. It wasn't because of a particularly stressful situation or anything that I was trying to get away from. It was really just for some self-reflection and some me time, some downtime. And that might look a little different for you, and that's okay. It might be that you go to a coffee shop or a park or just a walk. Whatever you're comfortable with, whatever your comfort zone is, I encourage you to do just that. For me, I couldn't do those things because it felt like I would want to be busy and distracted. And I thought about going shopping, and then I thought, well, I'm going to get all up in my head about buying things and decorating for Halloween that's right around the corner. I digress. The important part is that you go somewhere with yourself, that you feel safe taking the space to reflect on your own thoughts and emotions. Perhaps take a journal so that you can write some things down. I forgot to mention that I was phone free aside from trying to capture video of the crab in front of me or take some pictures of the scenery or listen, obviously to the podcasts and meditations that I mentioned. But for you, a space where you can do the same. That allows you to recharge and reconnect with yourself. According to a study published by the Journal of Positive Psychology, individuals who spend time alone engaging in enjoyable activities, solo, alone, report higher levels of happiness and lower levels of stress and anxiety. And it's easy to understand why, right? Doing things alone naturally build your self-reliance. They build your confidence and your independence. They give you a chance to recalibrate, to let all of the shaken up debris settle so that you can really get to the true essence of who you are and continue to build those qualities. Those qualities make you less dependent on others for your happiness. And so while I'm not advocating that you become a soloist in every adventure or everything that you do and just completely neglect or shy away from hanging out with your family or the people that are important to you, I do encourage you to take on some endeavors on your own as much as possible. Because facing and enjoying solitude can help you tackle challenges with a stronger sense of self. And your relationship with yourself requires your attention and nurturing just like any other relationship in your life. It's just that we often get busy with all of the other relationships with people and things and activities that we tend to put ourselves last. So these solo dates offer a chance for introspection and self-discovery. They lead to a deeper understanding of your own needs and desires and boundaries, and then you're able to more clearly communicate those to the people around you. And in my experience, when I'm able to do that better, I feel better overall in every way. And so do the people around me, because they don't have to put up with my tension, we'll call it. So I encourage you to take yourself on a date. Schedule it as soon as possible. Just like you would schedule a date with your spouse, or just like you would schedule a date with your kids or kids solo one-on-one, which I also encourage you to do. Those have their own benefits, obviously, for another time. But schedule a time to take yourself on a date. Think through where you want to go, where you can accomplish what it is that you need deep down inside for yourself. Not to be productive, not to take care of things or run errands, but to truly get to know yourself, to journal, to listen to a podcast, to watch the crab, to do whatever it is that helps you settle into a moment, an intimate moment with yourself. Don't forget that this is an act of self-love, and while we are busy often taking care of, like I said, everyone else and every other thing, this is a major investment in your own personal growth that spills over into every other facet of your life. So don't feel selfish. There's a lot of guilt and shame that comes along with wanting to do something like this. And I fortunately had the support of my husband, Greg. In fact, like I mentioned, I think he encouraged it more than I would have pushed for it. But I realize that not everyone is so lucky and not everyone is so comfortable expressing that this is something that they want to do. So I am giving you permission to put down the guilt and the shame and the rhetoric that this is selfish, and change your language to the fact that this is self-interested. and there's a difference. This isn't disregarding everyone else's desires and needs to put yourself first and not care how it impacts anyone. That would be selfish. This is self-interested. This is taking into consideration, what everybody else has going on and making your decision based on how your desires fit into that, but not putting yourself last, and knowing that what you're going to do is going to have a positive impact on the people around you, and that the intentionality behind that is pure. So thank you for coming along with me on the recap of my solo date, my beach camp day. And I hope that this inspires you to take action for yourself for all of the reasons that I shared that are of benefit. You deserve it. Each and every one of us deserves to have the space to do this. And it doesn't have to be elaborate or glamorous, and it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. There is no judgment. Do it for you. And then I would love it if you would send me a text. There's a link in the show notes to send a text directly to me, or email or drop by my website to connect with me and let me know if you did this and what you did and what you discovered about yourself. Because as I shared, I had no idea I was going to be overcome with so much emotion. So I would love to see what other people's experiences are and know that this was helpful in giving you permission to do this for yourself. As always, thank you so much for being here. There are 80 plus episodes in the backlog if you haven't listened to them, ranging everywhere from me talking about my personal experiences to Greg and I going back and forth about something, to having really interesting and high profile guests who share their experience being a human and enduring adversity and being tenacious in their pursuit of living a full life. Until next time.